What up everyone, it is Toshi and today we have a really interesting video planned out. So as you can tell from the title, we are going to be discussing whether or not I think that Ulquiorra was the strongest Espada in Bleach. Now, two things I want to clarify really quick before I even get any sort of length into this video. Number one, I'm aware that Ulquiorra was Espada number 4 before you all come out and be like, he was number 4, they even stated there was 3 people stronger than him. Like, yeah, I know. I read the manga too. I just find this interesting. And number 2, I forgot what number 2 was. Number 1 was that I'm aware he's number 4, and yeah, number 2, this video isn't going to be me stating why I think he is the strongest, nor is this video going to be me stating why I don't think he's the strongest. This is me just going to be talking about that topic and that question in general, purely because it's something that I just find interesting. So, obviously, the first point I want to make is that, obviously, we saw his very first release form, like his first resurrection form, and obviously we know that Aizen knew about that, at least we assume that he did, because, well, we assume that he knows sort of everything about the Espada, being that they were his own sort of private army. But obviously when he released his second release form, was it Segunde Etapa? He had 2, but I can't remember the names. And when he released his second release form, you know, he stated that not even Lord Aizen knows about this. Now, that was never confirmed, because I understand that you could easily turn around and be like, well, it was Aizen, you know, he knows everything, he must have knew that, but just chose not to, like, acknowledge it or make it known that he knew about that, but we can't really prove that, nor do we know that. So from what we do know, you know, from what Ulquiorra said, Aizen was unaware of this form, and this is where it gets interesting for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people personally, was like, well, if Aizen was truly unaware of this form, could he be stronger in this form than the other Espada? Could he be stronger than Haribel, Baragon, or even Stark? In my own personal opinion, I can see Ulquiorra being stronger than Haribel, but I'm not too sure if I can see him being stronger than Baragon and Stark. Because I think what a lot of people don't realise is, granted, we saw a lot of Baragon's abilities and a lot of his combat powers, and granted, he was extremely powerful. I mean, look at his battle with Soifon, you get me? That wasn't an easy battle, and I'll be honest with you, didn't really think Soifon was going to win. Like, was not looking good at all. And Stark's fight was a little bit different. You know, Stark got taken out relatively easily, but you have to remember, his opponent was Shunsui, and obviously he's strong as fuck anyway. You know, when Yamamoto died, Shunsui was the one that was appointed as the new head captain, so that on its own speaks volumes. But not just that, Stark didn't even want to fight, and he made that very clear. But I don't know what exactly he stated to Shunsui in general. I don't know if he said something along the lines of, oh, like, why don't we just talk, why don't we have a drink, why don't we just not fight? So yeah, I don't remember what was said exactly, but it was made clear that Stark did not want to fight. So we didn't really get to see too much of his abilities. I mean, and like, as for Haribel, we saw her fight, you know, we saw her fight against Toshiro, and we saw some of her abilities, but I really think Kubo held back for Haribel. I think with Stark, even though we saw next to nothing, I don't think Kubo held back, only because I just think, even though I know a lot of people were disappointed with the way the Stark went out, because, you know, he was a number 1 Espada, you know, we should have had a better fight scene, we should have seen more abilities, somebody should have died, all that stuff. But yeah, no, I completely understand that, but I think it was sort of a poetic ending for Stark, because it was made very clear that Stark wasn't the type to fight. Like, yeah, obviously he was extremely powerful, you know, he was Espada number 1. But he wasn't powerful. Well, no, he wasn't the type to go around boasting and bragging about his power and looking for fights. You know, it was made very clear Stark isn't a very combat-fueled person. So for him to go out like that, I think, yeah, it was a little bit sad, a little bit underwhelming. You know, I wish we could have seen more of his abilities and his character too. But it was sort of a poetic ending for him, you know. He didn't really want to go out during a big battle. That didn't really seem like his personality, you get me? That's more like Kenpachi, Ichigo, Shunsui, people like that, you know what I mean? People who would like to go out in battle, but I don't think Stark was one of them. So, but I think Kubo really held back on Hannibal because it was made clear that she was there to fight, she was there to serve, and she was there to kill. But we just didn't get to see that much of her abilities, and I know Kubo was really pressed for time, and you know, during that point in the Bleach story, you know, there was a lot going on. But you know, I just sort of wish we could have seen more of the Espada, and I think that's why this is such a confusing topic, because we don't even know enough about the top three Espada. We don't even know enough about the Espada in general, but we don't know enough about the top three Espada to say if Ulquiorra could have been more powerful than any of them. So this is all up for debate and speculation. This is all just my opinion. Like, I'm not coming out here saying Ulquiorra was the strongest Espada, and I'm not coming out here saying Ulquiorra wasn't the strongest Espada. I'm just talking about it because I find it very interesting. I'd like to think that he was a lot stronger than number 4, purely, but I do genuinely think that's because, and I think this is the same for a lot of people who might just not even realise it, I think it was because, like, correct, Ulquiorra was only Espada number 4, but I think his character and his abilities, they were done, you know, they were done with a lot more effort. I think Kubo put in a lot more time, a lot more work, and a lot more effort when it came to designing Ulquiorra than he did when it came to designing Stark, Hannibal, or Baragon. And you can disagree with me on that if you want, but that's my opinion. And I think that's why a lot of people have this sort of image of Ulquiorra being a lot stronger, a lot deeper, and a lot more mysterious than he actually was. And I think it was just because his character was so well designed and created and developed and presented that I think it just made a lot of readers or watchers feel like he should have been a lot more than he was, especially the way he died. Although, to be fair, I think the way he died was kind of cool, kind of badass, but, you know, that's like a separate video. And he would have, I mean, he basically did kill Ichigo. I mean, like, and I know this isn't the first time Ichigo was saved by holification or was, you know, given an advantage by his inner hollow, who turned out not to be his inner hollow and turned out to be Zangetsu. Yeah, that was a whole. I've already made a video on Zangetsu and how confusing he is if you want to check that out. But yeah, I know this is the first time where his holification gave him an advantage, but I think this is the first time where Ichigo was basically physically dead. Like, this was the first time he was literally saved by holification. Like, his fight with Byakuya, you know, there was still a chance he could have won. It was, you know, you can sit there and go, oh, well, it was Byakuya, he would have, you know, he probably would have lost. Yeah, that might be true. But he wasn't clearly defeated. Whereas in his fight with Ulquiorra, he was clearly done. Like, he was dead. There was no way he could have done anything. So, you know, Ulquiorra was clearly extremely powerful, and he couldn't even, you know, release his resurrection form, you know, in Hueco Mundo, in Las Noches. I mean, he had to, you know, break through the barrier, and I know that was for, like, was it like any Espada past 5? I'm not sure, but, you know, he was so powerful that his resurrection form, you know, he couldn't even release that in Las Noches. He had to sort of break through the barrier of Hueco Mundo. And, you know, I don't have loads of, like, really deep, interesting things to say here, because there's really not a lot of evidence to this, and it is basically purely all speculation and opinion based, but I just think it's interesting to talk about. I believe he could have been stronger than Hannibal. I believe to an extent he could have maybe possibly have been stronger than Baragon, but I don't like to think he was stronger than Stark. But it's just complicated, right? Because, like I said, we didn't really get to see a lot of Stark's abilities, and we saw a lot of Baragon's abilities, but, you know, Baragon was a king of Hueco Mundo, so surely, you know what I mean? Like, could Ulquiorra have been stronger than him? He was a king of Hueco Mundo, but Stark was stronger than him. Stark was number 1, but like I said, Stark wasn't the type to... Stark was powerful, he knew he was powerful, but he didn't feel a need to prove that he was powerful, you get what I mean? He didn't feel... His mentality wasn't, oh, I have all this power, so I need to make sure everybody knows, I need to assert dominance. He wasn't like that. He would just sort of settle with it. In fact, his power made him very lonely, I believe. So lonely to the point that he split himself into him and Lilnet, however you pronounce it. But yeah, that's me going off topic slightly. But no, I mean, I don't think Ulquiorra was the strongest Espada. I understand why some people do, and I understand why. And I just think a lot of us want him to be the strongest Espada because his character was so well done. We feel like he deserved more. But, you know, it's just part of the story. It's not really a big deal. Like, there's not really much I can cover because we weren't really given a lot of detail or evidence or proof for any of this. Because, like I said, I don't think we were given, and this is one of the issues I have with Bleach, I just don't think the Espada were given enough information. Like, I think the Espada were so interesting and deep and could have been so much more than they were. Because, you know, like, when Bleach was, you know, live and airing, you know, we were all scared these Espada were going to, like, destroy the Soul Society. And they got defeated pretty easily. And I know, like, the main enemy was Aizen anyway, so who cares? But, like, they were interesting characters, you know, and they were very important, very relevant. And I just wish, you know, especially the top three, got a lot more work done on their characters than they did. But that's just me hoping, you know, can't really do anything about that. I'm not Kubo, you're not Kubo, you know. We said this before, but if you are watching and you are Kubo, feel free to leave a comment telling us whether or not Ulquiorra is actually the strongest Espada. But, you know, I don't really believe that he is. I don't think that he is. I would like him to be. It would be cool if he was, because his character was just so good. You know, and his character was like the human embodiment of nihilism, which is like really interesting and deep and complex and sort of edgy and depressing. And is a video for another day. But no, I don't think he was the strongest Espada. I think a lot of us wish that he was, but he probably was not. I mean, doesn't mean he wasn't powerful. He was, you know, he was the first character we saw to clearly just defeat the fuck out of each. Well, you know, you could say that in the beginning of the series when Renji and Byakuya came to take Rukia back, that, you know, Ichigo was basically dead then as well. But like, come on, he was like, he knew. He didn't even, you get what I mean? Like, he was not at a level where he had any sort of power, like, whatsoever, more or less. So I don't really like to count that, but you can if you want to. But no, Ulquiorra was, like, the first person who we saw was like, wow, like, this is, like, this guy could seriously kill Ichigo. Like, is this it for Ichigo? Like, even when Yuha appeared, it was made clear that he was a lot stronger than Ulquiorra, maybe even Aizen, but I just didn't get that feeling of worry for Ichigo. Like, I didn't feel like Ichigo was going to lose or die. Whereas with Ulquiorra, it was different. I remember feeling like, oh, Ichigo, like, could actually die. Like, he could actually lose this one. And he didn't because plot armor, but, I mean, that's just what most anime and manga feel. But, gonna cut the video short here because I don't really have much else to say. Like I said, there's not really a lot of research and evidence and stuff available for this. At least, nothing that's canon anyway. Like, for those who are wondering, when I do videos like this, I like to get all my information from the manga, like actual written canon source material from the creator. You know, I can look on websites, you know, social media sites like Reddit and stuff like that, and fandom, wiki, all that, for information online. But there's a difference between, like, speculation and theories and internet information versus stuff that's actually, like, that was actually written and created by the creator of the story. So, that being said, hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and a comment and subscribe for future content. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. This is Toshi, signing out.